Hello and welcome to this Shipper Update. I'm Zach Strickland, here with our lead economist, as Mike Vincent just said, Anthony Smith, the big fan of the Flatbed Tender Rejection Index. Anthony, I don't see a Flatbed Tender Rejection Index behind me, though.
It's coming. It's coming. So as you know, it is Thursday, so there was an indicator that was on watch alert. That was initial jobless claims because it ticked up to 286,000, nearing that 300,000 mark. And so the thing was, like, does this go up a little bit more? Does it contract? What happens here? So it fell down to 260. So the red alert, we're moving it down.
Back to DEFCON 5 or whatever it is.
Moving it down a level right now. And so this is good news. We want to see it just hover around that mid 200,000s mark, 250, 260, fine. Goes over that, back on watch alert again.
Right.
So, and that was also a really big increase. So we could attribute some of that maybe to some of the seasonal layoffs, maybe some Omicron really implications there as well. But good news here, nothing too significant on the rise side. But this wasn't even one of the biggest stories. This was a big Thursday. 8:30 was an active time this morning because we had a lot of releases. This was probably the lowest in the priorities in terms of releases here. In the next chart here, we're going to get into another significant release, durable goods orders. And so durable goods orders, of course, orders that are placed for durable goods, as the name says, that then go to get produced, and then after they're produced, of course, shipped throughout the country. So we care about this as it pertains to freight and transportation. What we saw in durable goods was, I think, the most significant decline since 2020. So in about 2 years here, going on 2 years. And so we saw a downward movement of 0.9%. Now this isn't like a huge sharp drop, but if you look at this ongoing rise,
right,
that downward movement can be a little bit startling here when you start to see, oh, this is really ticking along here. Now durable goods, new orders is going to capture a lot of a variety of things. It's going to capture retail. It's going to capture some manufacturing. We're going to get into non-defense capital goods new orders, excluding aircrafts, in a few moments here. But when we're looking at this number, now when you see 1 month of downward movement, it's not indicative of a trend. But this, similar to last week, is indicative of, all right, eyebrows need to go up. In addition to when looking at what's happening upstream and downstream, that can really also tell us what's going on here. So we're in our next chart, we're going to go into a upstream look with non-defense capital goods new orders, and of course in that green line, we have one of the loves of my life, the Flatbed Asphalt Tender Rejection Index. And what we can see here is that this expectation that we were building out here for upstream activity to really hit a peak in the rate of growth soon, because I've been talking about this. It's imminent that we're going to see this because it peaked earlier last year, and the quarterly rate of growth, the annual rate of growth is going to peak soon, shortly after. This held flat, and if we see that this holding flat doesn't quite seem like too much of a surprise, and I don't think it's a cause for concern here to see essentially a flat side-to-side movement in non-defense capital goods and new orders after it's been hovering at such a high rate here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to point out that you're looking at pre-pandemic back here.
Yeah.
This is where we were ordering goods, and even if you did have a pretty sharp decline or anything, like we're still operating at such a high level of ordering. Like this is, I think this ongoing theme of 2022 is going to be slowing, not necessarily contracting.
Exactly, exactly. And I think flatbeds speak volumes here. When we look at the Flatbed Outbound Tender Rejection Index, this is really going to pull in a lot of information as to what's going on throughout the country. We're seeing construction activity that is really far behind in terms of really being able to get those goods to those breaking ground sites. We're also looking at manufacturing, which is also humming along. Lots of backlogs, lots of headwinds, of course, with available labor, being able to put this stuff out, sourcing materials, things like that. But when we're looking at manufacturing, this is going to be one that I think is going to be also tied into some of the implications that we're going to see from the Federal Reserve and with interest rates. Are you still going to make those same capital investments in some of those assets if you're starting to see interest rates rise a little bit more? So that's going to be, depreciating assets a lot of times, but that's going to be one of the things that I think might start to factor in the decision-making process for a lot of these businesses.
Yeah, do you think with these interest rates, obviously I think everybody's expecting them to rise here the next little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that on Freightonomics today. Do you think that there is a chance that we see some sort of like spike in orders before that happens?
That's going to be my first thought, is that there might be a pull forward of like, all right, we got to place these orders before these interest rates start to go up.
Yep.
And so we might see a little bit more momentum here than we would have seen without those talks that we've seen from yesterday from Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. So I think this is definitely going to be a lot. I get excited about manufacturing. I know not everyone does. I wake up 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I just wait for 8:30 and I just keep hitting refresh. And so this is going to be one of the ones I watch closely, especially with the green line here, our flatbed outbound tender rejection index, to really monitor the situation moving forward.
Cost of money's cheap right now. Get in while it lasts. Thank you so much for that, Anthony Smith. We'll toss it back to Mike and Kaylee.